Good afternoon, everyone. In terms of announcements, Wednesdays usually go faster through announcements because I don't have that many. Since it's kind of a weekly thing, but actually I have there's something I need to cover. So we're still on the February 24th week, so everything in here still applies. So the last 8 slides on lecture 3, and then we're going to go through lecture 4. And quiz I already covered. And I try to send that due this week, but I thought about it yesterday and I figured I'll wait for these deadlines to pass on today. So now I'm going to post due this week where it's clear it needs to happen. So the Wednesday is passed because we had the review for homework 1 and homework 2 was due right now today. And so those are gone. I didn't want to confuse. I noticed in the past, every communication I send, I have some people who get it and some people who get more confused than before. So I try to keep it short, but also avoid misunderstandings and so forth. So I will send you this week, probably today, if not tomorrow morning, sometimes. So what's going to be due this week is going to be the evaluation for this homework. So that's the longer thing I'm going to talk about right now for announcements. And let me see. It's not going to give me, as this user, it's not going to give me any choice there. Go back through here. So for this one, the evaluation is slightly different than the other one. So there's 6 points possible. And then clicking on any of these users, you would see, I don't think there's actual submissions here. But there will be 2 criteria. So make sure you do both of them. So it's 1 and 2. That's one way to navigate between the 2. The other would be save and next criteria will take you to criteria 2 now. And I know it should be criterion, but again, Blackboard didn't ask me. And you can go back to the previous one. So there are 2 things to write about for each and every user. One is the Tufte principles, and again, it's that slide that lists maximize data to ink ratio. That's one. No chart junk, multifunction graphical elements, small multiples, and show dynamics, causality, things like that. So make sure you kind of give, the way you do the review for Tufte, I'll be more interested to kind of understand your understanding of Tufte, not necessarily the submitters. So I'm going to kind of keep looking more carefully on this. I might get back to or deduct some points, but pay attention to Tufte, what it means. I have a bunch of, in the pre-recorded lectures, I went through a bunch of visualizations and kind of talked about them, including Tufte, but pre-attentive and all that. Obviously, pre-attentive is not part of this, but FYI, if you need more clarification. So on this, no principle really implemented. It's a 0. It's going to be hard to be no principle, but I'll let you judge. I've seen very few in which no principle was implemented. And then one principle seen, you've seen it in there, you kind of notice it, one of the 5 things that I mentioned. And then if 2 or more, you just give a 2 and you list the 2 most obvious ones. So that's kind of how this goes here. And the feedback to the learner is basically the names of the Tufte principles. Like I said, Very unlikely that you run into one with none, but it's possible. Anything is possible. Write the Tufte principle, like maximize data to ink ratio. So these are the 5. I already talked about them when I discussed about the assignment, but hey, why not? I'm sharing my screen. Let's see. I might be able to just pick it up quickly here. I think it's this lecture. So these are the 5s that I want everybody to have. It's our baseline. It doesn't mean that these are the only 5, or there's shades of grays and all that with Tuftes and with looking at something that deals with humans' decision making and understanding and so forth. But just to keep the baseline for this assignment, these are the 5, only for this assignment. So when we're done here, the rest of it is like you're used to, 4, 3, 2. So after you're done with Tufte, just think about how effective that visualization is in showing. Kind of look at all the other 6 that you have. And I had a question here, and by the way, and maybe it's worth showing. It may be a feature of Windows or Mac, but I'll point out in terms of the author and name, and here is what I received from a student. Obviously, as I said before, I don't expect you to use CIA and FSB investigation techniques if somebody has. But on the other hand, this shouldn't be that obvious. But let's see. Trying to find that message. And now it's too late, so I'm just going to point it out and don't give a 0 if the name of the person is not there, if the name is not in the document. But unfortunately, Word sometimes betrays you. If you look through here, the author is showing up on some of them. And I think it's mostly depends on how you build a document. So for this one, if the author shows up, ignore it. But in the future, try and clear your author from your document. I know you're not saving it, but automatically kind of looks at your username and it just slaps it in there. Yeah, and some people get, you get Word, for example, for free if you have a university account, and then it comes up with your name from the university. So keep that in mind. You need to look for a way to scrub this document. Like I said, looking at the icons, well, this one is the only one that kind of has everything with this type of icon, which is probably a docx newer version. This is probably a document created later on. And this is, some people use Google Docs and then they export it from there. So it all depends how it gets to you. Try and get rid of that author. When you save, it maybe give you an option to remove it. If not, right click on the file. And I think there's a way to, let me see. I already have, I opened one of these. Details, and then you can remove personal information if you click on it. Otherwise, it shows that was saved by me and when it was saved by me and all that. So keep that in mind. Normally it doesn't show up, but it may be a feature of, depending on how you have set up your view, it may be so obvious that you have to take care of it. Again, for this evaluation, if you see just the author slapped in there in the properties, because it's really in the properties, it's nowhere else. It's in here, and other stuff. But if you're on a PC, I don't know how you do this on a Mac, but there's on a PC, that's kind of how you remove those. I can remove them from the whole file. And it kind of takes it away. So I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize it's so obvious, but from that snapshot, it's like the user didn't have to. It looks like they're in a folder and it automatically show up. So I know that wasn't your intention. So for homework 2, the author field is not disqualifying. In the future, if you have trouble taking it off, let me know. But in the future, try and take it off and keep it more anonymous. I know, and so your name was there, unfortunately. Yep, and it's like all the user interfaces, they try to keep it simple, and they still add stuff to it. So that's fine for now. I don't want a bunch of zeros because of that. Like if the name of the file is there, then yes. If the name of the author, it's inside the document, written, typed. If it's something that Word added later, then for this one, we don't care about. For feedback, the only feedback I want is the redundancy. Believe it or not, I had people who said, oh, this is the best one. They gave it a 1 because it's number 1. So that's why redundancy allows me to kind of look at it and maybe change it if I have to, if I notice inconsistencies in there. So that's pretty much this. So at the end, just make sure you submit, and that should be fine. And I think you can change it all the way till the deadline, which is going to be Monday. So it's a little bit faster because I extended it a bit. Is it Monday? No, it's Wednesday. Yeah, the 5th is still Wednesday. Am I right? Yes. So yeah, it's not. You still have a week. Again, I think the reviews are not as intense as building your own. I should have homework 3 also. I'll try and post it 3 and 4 quickly, but it's not coming up. There's no deadline yet. So if I talk about it, I'll talk about it on Monday, and it'll be up there by Monday. So right now you won't have a homework to create, but you have homework to review this week. And that being said, I think most of the announcements are already covered. I think I have 2 projects to kind of show you what they thought of and kind of hear my comments. And I should have an article presentation for the 26th. Okay. And so that's all the announcements for today. Mostly, I mean, the homework 2, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about.